Well, everyone, welcome back to another episode of the Resolute Minds podcast. I'm your host, Rory Sloan, and I'm here today with Emmett, as usual. And we have a very special guest on the podcast today, Ryan. So, Ryan, thanks for coming on.
Thanks for having me.
And would you like to just tell everyone a little bit about yourself, what you're up to now, and what you've been sort of up to in the past?
Yeah, well, I'm Ryan. I'm currently a personal development coach. But in the past, for 7 years, I worked within the criminal justice environment, within the prisons, which I did enjoy, but I thought I could offer more to life, so and helping people, so I decided to go out on my own and did that way.
See how
Yeah.
that worked out.
Yeah.
I suppose just basically talking about your bit of your past there. So, in your own words, how would you describe our prisons now in Northern Ireland?
I think at a lost cause. They do try and help, and they do a lot of good work, but they don't address the main issues that need addressed to help. They'll address the issues that are on the surface, but they'll not actually delve under the surface, so they can treat everything. They're taking the root cause.
And what
into account.
in your own, in your own mind,
I-
what would that be?
I think a lot of it is to do with trauma that people have had. As staff within the prisons, you do trauma courses, trauma informed coaching and stuff. But the people who are in helping, or the likes of myself who's in helping too, you can only help so much
Yeah.
because they don't want you to delve any deeper. They don't have the funding for you to do it any deeper. And a lot of people just want a quick fix. So they'll address, yes, you may have an addiction problem. We'll try and help you with your addiction, but we'll not actually look at why you're addicted to these things.
Yeah.
Say it's trauma, from sexual abuse or physical abuse, domestic abuse, childhood traumas. They'll not delve into any of that. It'll just be, oh, right, well, you've an addiction, so we're going to help you with your addiction.
Yeah.
Sure. Yeah, so they don't actually, they're kind of, you come in, you say, I'm addicted to these blues or yells or whatever, and they're kind of like, oh, we can help you wean off of it, but they don't actually deal with the issue or the root cause of why you are addicted to these things, because as we say, everyone that's addicted to drugs is a victim of something.
Yeah.
And you're hiding your pain, essentially, where the prisons aren't there to, obviously the people going to prison have never been in a situation like coming to Emmett who can help deal with it.
Yeah.
So they go into prison, say, oh, I'm struggling, I'm suicidal or whatever, and then they're just weaned off the drugs. They're not actually dealt with the issue, which I suppose when people come back out, that's why you have so many people then committing suicide or going straight back to the addiction again, because they've only really resolved the drugs for temporary cause. They haven't resolved the pain or what's going on with that. And so basically off that, what sort of thing do you think that they could bring in to help?
They could bring in,
Hard question.
trauma-informed courses for the inmates, to maybe help them delve deeper into where their root cause comes from, and coping mechanisms of how to deal with that. Whether that be through counselling, CBT, working with addictions, addressing their behaviours and how their mind is, as opposed to not going, I'm going to numb the pain that I've experienced through going out, as you say, taking blues, taking yellows, taking pregabalin, Lyrica, and even harder stuff. They're addicted to heroin and stuff like that, which is just a slippery slope to.
And I suppose as a trauma therapist, okay, talk therapy is a great thing for building relationships and trust with each other, but it doesn't actually work for trauma. It doesn't actually work for it. So what I would say to you is, from just listening to what you're saying, the trauma informed work and whatever, it's great to know all about all this, but what are you going to do with it? Do you know what I mean? So this is where, by the sounds of it, we need skilled workers within our prisons that actually work with trauma
Yeah, 100%.
instead of dancing with it,
100%.
bouncing around, whatever. What is our drug abuse like in prison now?
From, you could walk around the streets of Belfast or your local communities, and I guarantee you'll not really see an awful lot to do about drugs, whereas in prisons, drugs are everywhere. They're literally everywhere. You have people that have heard stories that coming in to visit their family, and they'll have heroin hidden in their child's nappy. A naive, young, innocent child is then brought into this drug system where they're the bit there that's being used to traffic the drugs in.
Traffic the drugs in.
And I mean, the things people are doing, to get the drugs on the inside.
As in, what do you mean by
Prescription
doing?
drugs. So,
Okay.
Say all three of us are inside. I've never took drugs before.
Yeah.
You've never really took drugs before. You maybe, dabbled in
Okay.
low level stuff. And, Roy's on a prescription for something in jail, whether that be a methadone program for heroin or, your diazepam or whatever.
Subutex, whatever.
I then try and buy stuff off Rory.
And is it even a point where, sorry for interrupting you, but even to that point where you're trying to buy stuff of Rory, is to cope with your day?
Yeah.
To cope with your day?
Daily, I've lost my liberty, my life's turned upside down for whatever reason it may be, it doesn't necessarily make you a bad person being in prison. But it comes in from a mental health side of things, you're struggling to cope. How can I take this struggle away? There's something there that's going to alter the way my mind works, and it's going to make me, forget what's going on for 2-3 hours.
Yeah.
So
what level of support is there?
There's addiction services in there, but they just sort of go around and say, right, what are you addicted to? Right, well, we'll need to speak to healthcare. Healthcare then going to up your dose of, diazepam, or you want help getting off heroin. Well, you'll come off the Subutex program, go into the methadone program, and they're just medicating instead of actually going, right, why are you addicted to this?
Yeah. Say whenever, obviously I went to prison for a while, and I was in the middle of a heavy coke addiction whenever I went in. And to be fair, I can't really remember, to be fair, because of brain fog, but I never actually owned up to being a coke addict at the time, so I didn't get help, so I was cold turkey the whole way through it, but I was suicidal and my mental health was at the lowest, and all I can remember, because I think I was actually extremely shocked, even with the state I was at, I still noticed that I was only given like a word search and maybe one guy to talk to, and I'm dyslexic as well, so a word search didn't exactly help. And I was probably one thing, I was quite lucky that when I was in, I was held longer in isolation, so I didn't actually go out into public ground before I got bailed, where being in that mental state and position that I was in, maybe I couldn't get coke, I could have went to heroin because it was easier to get to, because when you're in that sort of addiction mindset, at the end of the day, I know personally that I'm actually lucky I wasn't never around heroin, but if I had been out on, say, a night, coke was my poison, if you want to call it, but if I had ran out with it and someone was sitting there and it was already in the height of it and someone was sitting there going, here, there you go. It's chasing that sort of high, it's chasing that escape. But yeah, that was definitely one thing that I noticed in prisons. I didn't feel like I got a lot of quality support in there. I think
there's no quality support. As you say, there was a running joke going about, there's the prison officers coming and they're going to give them a wee cuddle, someone who's, and then don't get me wrong, there is, likes of yourself who has that mental health issue and could benefit from actual proper help. But then on the flip side, there's also the ones who are saying, I've mental health issues purely to manipulate the system to get the drugs.
Yeah.
Which then takes away, they could then spend most of their time with 50% of the jail population who are faking it just to get a hit over someone who actually needs it. And then that's where the suicide rolls into things, because someone who's going to,
I don't know if you've seen it was a Stephen Nolan show he did.
Yeah.
And there was the guy, and it went viral, the video of him, and I think he's actually related to someone from Alternatives, and he gave the whole riot about why people are killing themselves and the NHS can't do anything about it, or basically the system's just not doing good enough. And then he actually got released after that and killed himself because he went back onto the drugs.
Yeah.
I think that just emphasized, it was quite, obviously wasn't a good thing, but it was quite powerful that he was basically crying out for help in a public forum on TV. and still no one helped him.
Yeah,
which I just think's a bit fucking mad. It's just it's a polite way to put it. To be fair,
It's
actually it really got to me. That was
Yeah.
probably another thing that drove my obviously coming from that background and trying to help people with mental health and addiction. I definitely seeing that and then hearing that
Yeah.
he's literally cried out for help on TV.
no one's listened to him.
Not just to someone else, and still no one helped him, and now he's dead.
Yeah.
I suppose just mental.
But that's the sad reality of the prison life and the prison system. You know, it's a vicious circle. You know, you come in through having an addiction, for talk's sake, as an example. You'll not get the help you need for your addiction while you're in there. You'll maybe develop a harder habit. Then you get out. That harder habit's harder to keep up with, so you turn to crime to fund that habit, potentially. Then you're back in. And that just becomes a vicious circle through life. And until, you know, a sad reality like that young guy taking his life, all he needed was maybe a bit of direction, a bit of help, you know, from the likes of yourselves.
Yeah, exactly.
You know, to say, look, I've been here. This is my story. This is how I done it. I can help you. You know, but they also have to want to do it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
You know, as you probably know yourself, you have to want to change and want to, you know, take your life away from that.
Yeah.
Ryan, I suppose a big question then is when you're talking about this level of environment of dangers. So what is the dangers for staff working in the prison and what's the dangers also for prisoners?
Well, dangers for, I'll start off with prisoners first.
Yeah.
Because, you know, the dangers for them is, it can also link with staff too. You have the volatile behaviour
Okay.
that can occur from, you know, taking specific drugs and they react with specific ways. And I actually heard one guy saying one day in the jail that if you, you know, so say like a cocodamol or a glue, you take it, you know, by swallowing it, it makes you sort of calm, chill, relax.
Yeah.
If you sniff it, it gives you the opposite effect.
Yeah.
You know, so they're dabbling in different ways of taking the drugs to try and get different hits.
Yeah.
So that can also, you know, something that's maybe only meant to be taken a certain way is being taken in a different way, which then gives them a health risk. You know, it wouldn't be the first time there's been blue light ambulances out of the prisons, you know, people who have taken something the wrong way or taken something they're allergic to, which then, you know, you could have someone passing away. You could have, you know, their life's changed. You know, they could go into organ failure, not be the same as they were when they came in, you know, life changing effects on them. And for staff too, staff could be, you know, you can
Traumatized?
traumatized from having to deal with that, you know, the process of trying to save that person's life, as well as trying to, you know, if there's 50 other things going on within a wing, you know, then as you say, if someone's maybe suicidal and you're meant to be checking on them, they're not getting the help you need. So maybe in that 10 minutes you've been spending, you know, helping somebody, giving somebody CPR, that person's took their own life in the cell.
Yeah.
You know, so it's there's not enough staff in the prisons.
So staff is a big
cope
issue.
with everything too. You know, the low staff is a risk of, you know, staff dealing with situations like that when there is drug overdose.
But what happens for
problems,
what does staff then get if they're facing attempted suicide or suicide? What does the staff get then to support them? And after that's been nothing. So our staff, people in Northern Ireland, are in a prison working in a very, very high dangerous drugs, mental health situation, and they're receiving no support or no aftermath support.
They had launched a course out for like prison staff that were dealing with those sort of things, but anyone I've spoke to, been prison staff, had said, you know, it's all good to have that, but they've never actually
essentially like a course isn't really good enough. If you've dealt with someone firsthand killing them, like say they have committed suicide or attempted, and like you're say you're a prison guard or whatever, and you're having to deal with it. It's not saying that you're bulletproof. You know, you've got your own mental health. You could have anything going on in your life outside of there, and just because they've supplied a course, you know, there's realistically should be someone one-on-one to be right. You've had to deal with this. You're coming out of work now, and for an hour for the next few weeks, you're now being assessed and helped through of what you've just had to deal with. Because no matter how hard or what big you are or whatever, if you see something like that, it's going to affect you. You know,
like, don't get me wrong, sorry to interrupt you, Roy. There will be, if a prisoner was to witness that, like say there has been, there's been people who have attempted suicide in the like communal shower area, and there really been another prisoner in there with him.
Yeah.
They'll bend over backwards for that prisoner to get them the help, which is perfect. Give them the help. Because it's not a nice thing for somebody to see or somebody to deal with. As you say, there's maybe not an awful lot. There's an awful lot going on in their own minds, but then the staff are having to see that, and then see that again, see it again, see it again, and it all just builds up. And you can only, as you say, be resilient for so long.
Yeah.
But there's nothing there then for the staff to deal with that. So they're under the pressures of having to deal with stuff like that.
It'd be interesting if there was like a stat, to see like how many people that work in the prisons actually suffer from working in the prison.
Yeah.
Like I've never really seen, maybe something to
There's probably
look
quite a
at
lot of
and include.
PTSD cases, I would imagine.
Sorry?
PTSD, I would say, would
Huge.
A lot of it. A lot.
Huge amount of PTSD and mental and what you're saying is like we've got there's support that doesn't work. You see, any addiction really is pain.
Yeah.
That's it.
Yeah.
Okay. So harm reduction and all these things can help.
Yeah.
But if we've still got the pain, you're still going to soothe it with the drugs. You're still going to soothe it with the behaviors.
Yeah.
Okay. So you have to work with the pain. So your prison officers are going in and they're working on a day-to-day basis. Their mental health getting worse. And plus also what's going on in their home life. How are they coping with that? How's their families coping with, that is a massive, massive ripple effect. And it's something that should be really, really looked at way before now.
Yeah, I would agree.
The one thing I would love to ask you is, what would you do if you had the power? What would you do to change our prisons, not just for our prisoners, but now speaking highly about our prison officers?
Good question. I would probably increase the staffing levels because there's more than.
What do you think? What's the problem with staffing levels? What do you think's the main issue?
They're far too low.
They're too low, but why do you think they're too low?
Staff may be getting burnt out because they're having to do the job, maybe 3 and 4 different staff members, the prison population rising. Again, the self-harm and things like that people are having to witness, or assaults on staff, assaults on prisoners. Staff are then going off sick and then going, there's more to life than this, for the pay. There's people in there that are working in Tesco's are getting paid more than a prison officer, believe it or not. And, the stuff they're having to go in day and daily to do and see and not have that support, I would definitely try and formulate some sort of support program.
Yeah.
Whether it be, right, you've experienced this today.
Yeah.
You're now going to go, as Rory would say, get an assessment of some sort to see how you're
100%.
coping, and you're not going to go back into the front line maybe for 6 to 8 weeks until we know that you're actually okay to do so.
Like a well-being hub
Yeah.
for supporting officers
Yeah.
as well. But I also think that by the sounds of it, we need trauma experts working
Absolutely.
within the prison, with the prisoners and the prison officers.
Yeah.
It's very, very important. Another thing you're just bringing you back into that where you just mentioned pay. How much is this job worth? Not just in financial benefit, but mental benefit, physical benefit. It should match.
It should.
There
And
should be better wages.
a lot of people, I think, are naive. The job when, and speaking to a couple of different officers whilst I was in and around the different prisons, that a lot of them join because they think, I'm going to go in, I'm going to have a positive, approach. I'm going to have an impact that's going to help people. And whilst that is fantastic to have, and credit to them for having that, the management within the prison don't allow them to do it because it's a set routine. It's you conform. You're not allowed to speak to a prisoner's not your friend.
Yeah.
And yes, I get that. You're not there to make friends.
You need some sort of relationship with them,
But,
essentially.
if you have that relationship that, like yourself's been in, I've been in, and you have that positive rapport with somebody, that person, if they're having a tough day or, needing to vent, instead of them going and just, hitting or taking their cellmate hostage, hitting a member of staff, starting a riot, setting something on fire, if they ask the officer that they've had the rapport with on their wing to go, what, can I have a chat with you? I'm just getting it tight and having a chat. But then that's frowned upon.
Yeah.
And then there is all these different instances too, or, maybe they turn to drugs
Yeah.
instead of just asking.
So another question sort of that I would have is we talk quite a lot about fitness on our podcast and stuff. Obviously because I never got into population. What is like, is there good fitness facilities in the prison, and do you think there's a position for them to bring it together with mental health help?
They do. All of the jails do have good fitness suites. I think there's like Abra and Hydebank there just got a massive refit in there. All of the different.
I suppose that's a good thing that they are kind of prioritizing something.
Yeah, but then they use, as the typical prison system works, from talking to them, they would say, well, I've been banned from the gym because I told my class officer to do one.
Yeah.
So then maybe that's their escape. You get into the gym, that's their coping mechanism.
Yeah.
And it's used as just a cart and stick again. Rightly so, I get if you break or you do the wrong thing, or you break rules, there has to be consequences. But
that's why they're in the first place.
There's maybe something else. You're not getting your tuck shop this week, which I'm sure there would be a lot more.
Well, if they're happy
about and still be able to go to their gym and keep their mind right.
If their mental health's not being worked on properly and their trauma's not been worked properly, how do you expect a human being not to react to the way they've always reacted to the responses of authority?
Absolutely.
Do you know? So I think it's very, very important to be able to build relationships with the prisoners. And there is ways to be trained. You can train an officer, how to communicate. There's different ways of communicating. And I understand manipulations are huge things within the prisons. It's within everything, and even our communities, never mind just in prisons. So it's lovely to listen to you and, having that openness and honestness about this. And it's something that needs to be looked at. It needs to be tracked with. But it's important that it's not just about prisoners.
Yeah.
It's also about the staff that have to live with them. Because it's just like a big house, really.
Well, absolutely.
Do you know what I mean? It's one big family. And I mean, I worked for many years in the prison, and I can be honest with you, a lot of times I felt completely safe because of the relationship built with the prisoners, with structure and framework. But the biggest thing of them all, boundaries.
Absolutely.
Just your boundaries. That's it, kid.
Yeah.
Don't push them, and we're cool.
Absolutely.
Do you know what I mean? But I think the humanistic approach can be taught to us to actually communicate and connect in them relationships.
Absolutely.
But the big one for me, just listening to you, for me anyway, Roy, is that we are not working with trauma the way we should be for all population in prisons in Northern Ireland. So, Ryan, I suppose the big question for me is, why did you leave?
I think everything just got to me and started to affect my own mental health. I was coming home from work, just couldn't switch off from, thinking about the different people I've dealt with that day. If I go into work tomorrow to see them, they're still going to be alive, and having those sort of thoughts, they have an effect on you when, you're dealing with it day and daily, trying to help people, with their various mental health problems, addiction problems, things like that. But it is hard to strike because you're only human. You have emotions.
Yeah.
You feel it just as much as them.
Yeah.
Because you're trying your best to help and you're putting all your energy into that.
And you're actually saying when you're saying this to me, and I'm actually taking them home with me.
Yeah. You can't leave them, as the prison officers would say to me, leave your work.
Clients or whatever.
We leave our work in the locker room. That's what they say. Whereas then, if only it was that easy, can I leave my work when I, sign off on a computer at night?
Yeah.
But I think that, and, having people you were working with,
Was it affecting your family? Was it affecting your outside life, your own personal life?
Yeah, like you just felt yourself being down and, you're, say, going home to your wife and she's trying to tell you how your day is and you're just going, yeah, right, okay, dead on.
Ah,
okay. Very good. You were losing touch with your actual emotions. It completely desensitized you. They were, if she had said, "Oh, I had a really shit day," you were like, "Oh, what happened to you?"
Jake, your day was bad. Want to hear? Yeah.
And it just has a negative impact, and the negativity that you were bringing home was having an effect in, everything.
Can you actually remember the pinpoint where you said to yourself, I'm done? Or was it a collection of things? But that one
think
point
it was
where you
more
just
a
made that
collection of things, and it happened. Running update, there was a couple of people with real bad self-harm, a couple of different. You'd heard people had passed away on the outside due to the drugs and whatever, and you're going, there's bound to be more than this. I can
more for you, or more for you that you can do for them?
more for me that I can do for them.
Okay. Yeah,
And,
okay.
more for them as well, because it's as I say, it affects you still when you're at home, but when you're hearing that they're passing away from drugs on the outside, you're going, is this job right for me on the inside here? Am I getting my full benefit?
Yeah.
Are they getting my full benefit in here? Or if I can leave and try and, work on it from a different environment.
Mm-hmm. Did you leave for your own safety? As in your mindset and your mental health and everything?
Like my own mind, yeah.
To save, even the aspect, and part of me is like rattling my brain, did you leave just even to save the family that you're with at home because of the way you were coming home?
Yeah, I would have left because of the negative impact it was having on my own mental health.
Aye.
Is the reason I had to get out of that environment. It just...
But it's amazing too that you've committed this environment.
Yeah.
And you're creating another environment for the same people.
Yeah.
Which is a credit to you for doing so.
Thank you.
Do you know what I mean? It's a real credit for you. You're not leaving them behind.
No.
Do you know what I mean? By the looks of what you've just spoke about the whole way through, the support for you, the help for people, it's just not there. They're not doing it right. But it was having such an impact on you because of your personality.
Yeah.
And what you felt for these people.
Since you have left, and you're obviously talking about you left for your own mental health, and now you have left, what's life like now? Is it better? Was it the right decision, do you think?
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Life's so much better. I've a clear mind, clear conscience as it is.
Yeah.
I can still, help people, but I'm not, I haven't the same mental burden as such, where everything's bottled up inside me and I'm bringing it home. I think it was the environment I was in had a lot to play in that, because you were...
I suppose that is quite a big thing. Obviously, if you're only human. If you're around people struggling with all these things, it's only going to be so long before you attract them struggles yourself.
Yeah.
Essentially, you're not going to put an addict you're going to put an alcoholic in a bar surrounded with people, because eventually they'll start, drinking it. Or even if you put anyone in a bar all the time, essentially that's the only thing to do.
Yeah. You become creatures of the habit.
Yeah. So if you're in around that 60-70% of your week, plus bringing it home, then it's only going to be so long before you start to reap the negativeness that's going on.
And I think that's what happened. That was crucial for me, making that leap of going, I need out of here.
Yeah.
Whereas I'm not in that anymore. I don't have those
feelings.
If I'm going different places every day to help people and meet with people, and it's fantastic, because every day's different. You're getting to see new people every day in their environments and different environments, where they're more at ease, and you're seeing maybe the one person, whereas when back in the other job there was hundreds of people there that you were sort of going, I need to help.
Yeah.
Whereas you're focused now.
Yeah.
I think that helps a lot too,
and that individual also feels that focus.
Absolutely, yeah.
Do you know what I'm trying to say?
They're getting the benefit of your help and your support.
Yeah, no, that's pretty cool. And how is family life and outside life now?
Brilliant.
Brilliant.
Can't complain. Great. Better than ever.
Better than ever, and that's always a plus, isn't it, really? So now you've got out of it all. You've set up your own business.
Yeah.
So tell us a bit about the work you actually do.
So I'm just taking individuals that I've worked with before, essentially. Not all of them. It's not those who have reached out to me for the help and support. And I'm helping them better their life, helping them set goals, giving them ambition, giving them drive, letting them see that their dreams can be a real thing. Their dreams can be reality.
It's like creating the purpose that you were talking about they didn't have before.
Absolutely. if that person, you know, dreams of having a house, having a family,
Yeah.
being off drugs,
Yeah.
being clean, you know, being sober if they were an alcoholic,
Yeah.
they can have that. And that, me helping them towards that is, and seeing them grow,
Priceless.
you know, it's phenomenal.
Oh, yeah. I
Phenomenal.
can't wait to know what you're talking about. And you know what? And I can say this, and I said to anybody that's watching here, it's men like this and this that I need. They're coming up through so I can sit and do nothing. I can just chill and hang out and all that type of stuff. But it is the young men that we're pushing up, and these young men that I'm going to say to you now is the compassion that they carry for what they're going to do. This man, you know, and I really stand putting this out here, that you walk the miles, you know what I mean? You've walked the lands, you've helped prisoners, and now you see, okay, this isn't working. So I'm going to go create it on the outside, you know, and that's gutsy.
Yeah.
Do you know what I mean? That is gutsy. And even what you're saying to me, some of the guys have got in touch with you, or you've got in touch with, you know, it just goes to show you what sort of rapport you did build with them, and the respect, and also the trust that they have for you.
Yeah.
You know, which is a credit to you, absolute credit to you. Anything you like to add, Roy?
Yeah, I think it's just great to get a kind of bit of an insight on what's going on, and it kind of helps other people watching realize that people that are going to prison maybe are getting stuck in that circle. It doesn't necessarily mean they're a bad person. People make mistakes, you know. I was quite lucky that I was able to turn my life around. A lot of people don't.
I'm proud to you.
Yeah, and it's just quite. Thanks very much. It helps people be more aware of, you know, when you see someone maybe getting on or whatever, they might need help. You know, it's not, they weren't born like that.
No, I think awareness is the key fact. You know, be aware.
Yeah, definitely.
Reach out. You know, don't be afraid to go, are you okay?
Yeah. Well, that's actually my new campaign that I'm starting Resolute Minds is to educate and make people, especially from the younger generation, more aware of like what's going on around like addiction and mental health and stuff. And, you know, so there's not that stigma where, oh, that person's weak because they're struggling, or that person's maybe drinking too much or turned to drugs so they're a waster. You know, there's something else going on. It's to educate them and make them more aware of sort of what's going on in the world now, because it is such a big thing and it is normalized, unfortunately. So just the last thing to end on is obviously you've said you've moved on to doing mentoring. Do you want to explain to everyone what that's been about? Just what's your plans going forward? And
yeah, good question. It's just relatively new to me. I think it's more finding people who, you know, don't have a purpose or are struggling to find their purpose in life. You know, delve into, you know, what is their true, you know, driving force behind what they want to do with their life. You know, have they something in their mind that they want to achieve, don't know how to do it, you know?
Would you be interested in essentially helping people when they get out of prison? Is that kind of like as well sort of
like
trying to find that hope?
That was another thing, you know, I'd actually thought about too. It's that whole vicious circle, as I talked about earlier on. There's nothing on the outside as such to help. Like there's stuff there, but it's, you know, there's waiting lists, there's, you know, there's other different people, because it's in a community. It's not just solely based in the one place. You know, you have all sorts of people needing that help too. You know, maybe that they just slip through the net and then they're in that. But if you can create something that catches them, you know, when they slip out of that net and go, you know what, we're here to help you.
What is it called?
Believe Mindset Coaching.
Believe Mindset Coaching. So everyone, make sure you give them a follow and share it about. And yeah, like, share, and follow as usual. Thanks for watching. Thanks, Emmett, for joining as usual. And yeah, keep her lit.
Keep her lit.